Hello and welcome back to Interjections International Break Edition. We're here to talk about the Mercato and play another game of buy or sell. I'm your host Andrew, Miko, Irfan, and Jay with me. Miko, what's going on?
Not much, not much. Enjoying this wonderful time of the year, the international break again. So anxiously waiting for the games to continue, but let's talk what we have now.
I was gonna say that's a rare moment of Finnish sarcasm there because no one is excited about this time of year.
Yeah.
Irfan, your favorite American football team kicks off in about an hour and a half. Are they gonna win today?
That's right. The Bears are in London, so their European adventure it starts today. I think they'll win for sure. I don't have a great track record of supporting teams in Europe, as you guys are well aware. But no, I think they'll do pretty well. And yeah, I am also not looking forward to this international break. Can't wait till it's over.
Noted. Jay, how are you doing?
Au contraire, mon frère. I'm enjoying this wonderful time free from this accursed club and this accursed season.
I do find it's been nice to take a step back and pretend Inter does not exist for a week, just because the vibes, like I said, have not been great. Before we dive too far into things, I do want to give a shout out to Sterling, thank him for co hosting last week, and wish him well. I know he was not quite in the eye of the hurricane path going through Florida last week, but I know he had to evacuate and stuff. So, Sterling, hope you're doing okay, buddy. And to all our Florida based listeners, hope you're doing well. So, with not a ton of game topics to speak about this week, we're going to start off with some Mercato talk. There are a few names that are floating, maybe because of Inter's lack of activity this past summer. People are anxiously looking forward to future Mercatos. And there's been a few names floated that we could be interested in, mostly on free transfers, but also ones that require us paying a transfer fee. So there's three names we want to talk about: Jonathan David from Lille, Bijoli, the center back from Udinese, and then Ta from Bayer Leverkusen. So Miko, I'll let you start. Pick whichever one of those names you are most excited about, and tell me why they'd be a good fit for Inter.
Uh, I would pick Ta from Leverkusen because Pichol is also a center back, and the plus for Pichol is that he has Serie A experience. But I would pick Ta because of his experience in a bit bigger club and in a bigger national team in Germany. He was playing in the Euros, and I would see him being an excellent fit to this team to replace one of our center backs who, well, I don't know which one is gonna be who's gonna leave, but I assume one of the Ryan Cherby will leave next summer, so we need to find a guy to replace the leaving one. So Ta would be a great addition as the central midfielder in a three-man defense. But I would also see him being probably less likely to join because he's been now linked to, of course, Bayern as every top class free agent in Germany, but also now recently in Real Madrid as well. I don't know what's their situation with the center backs, and he might not be maybe a best fit for like a four-man defense, but nevertheless he's been linked to Real now, so I assume we there's no way we can compete against Bayern and Real. So I find it unlikely that Ta will join Inter, but that would be the most interesting for me, for sure.
Yeah, I agree that this is. You call this the most interesting, and it's also probably the most unrealistic because if you look at the different teams who want Ta, we just probably won't be able to compete with them on wages. But He isn't available on a free transfer, and I don't know. I think of guys like Thuram, who we thought Premier League teams were going to gobble up, and we ended up getting him. So don't want to rule it out, but I'd say he's the most unlikely name on the list. So
Yeah, I think that the minus for us this time is that there won't be the growth degree available anymore. So there's like probably a too big gap regarding the salary, how much we can pay. So that makes it makes it even more unlikely we can get him, but we can only always hope.
yeah, completely agree, and we're really yet to see how the lack of growth decree has impacted our ability to sign these free transfers. We all know about the Ramoso stuff, and that wasn't shot down because of decree. That was shot down because of Oak Tree. So we're really yet to see what this will do to Morata's typical approach to a transfer window, and we don't know if we're being linked to all these free transfers because we actually have interest, or this is just the media trying to put two and two together, given Morata's track record. So, Irfan, of the other two names I mentioned, which one are you most interested in between Jonathan David and Bijol?
I'm actually more interested in Bijol. I'm actually more interested in Bijol than I am Todd, to be honest, because um, I think some people forget that Bijol had a really, really good Euro Cup, and he's also, he's Serie A proven, and he's very young still. So I think all of that stuff tips it into his favor. And I've liked when I've seen him play. He's played really well. And overall, I think he'd be a better fit than even Jonathan Tah. So he seems like a really good option. My only concern is, can we get him for the price that we'd have to pay?
Yeah, and I probably should have mentioned he is the only player of these three who we'd need to pay a transfer fee for. Udinese own him. His contract's not going to expire. I think I saw 30 million float in the media this week, which seems ridiculously high.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
insane.
he's the only player we'd actually have to go out and purchase.
Yeah, I saw something that said like 15 million. That seemed more reasonable. But yeah, 30 million. I mean, that's not going to happen. And with Oak Tree, we don't even know if 15 million is realistic, to be honest.
Only if you're under the age of 22. So that leaves Jay to discuss a player I know he does not want, Jonathan David. Jay, please tell me why you don't want Jonathan David.
It's very simple. I just haven't been impressed anytime I've seen him. Admittedly, I'm not watching Lille week in, week out, but they've still been a fairly regular competitor in European competitions, and I just don't see it, man. He seems like a decent striker, but just not of the quality we need. And to be fair to him, I had similar concerns about Thuram in that we were giving quite a big wage sum to a guy who is in some ways unproven at the top level, and who is not a proven commodity, and therefore it seemed a bit of a risk. Whereas Thuram seems to have paid off in that regard, uh, I just don't have the same faith about David, I'm afraid. So yeah, just a lack of kind of established quality, or at least in my eyes, a lack of elite potential. I just don't think he has it, I'm afraid.
I'm not a huge fan of Jonathan David as a player either. You have to be really careful when you look at French league stats because it's easy to look at his goal scoring record at Lille and be like, wow, this guy is a world class finisher. But if you actually watch him play, like he's not an out and out striker the way you think someone with his goal scoring record is. He really is better as an off striker, and he does. There are some good comparisons between him and Thuram, but he's not as fast as Thuram, and Thuram's already not the fastest player in the world, and he's not nearly as strong on the ball as you'd hope for someone his size. Like Jonathan David's a big dude. Like you can tell he's physically fit, but he loses the ball way too easily for my liking. But this is the name on the list I would take most. And here's the reason why. He's relatively young. He's probably within Oak Tree's budget constraints in terms of what they're looking for from an age standpoint, from a price standpoint. And your competition is not going to be Real Madrid and Bayern. It's probably going to be upper to mid-table Premier League squads, which speaks a bit to the quality of the player. But I mean, I like to think this guy would be better than Arnautovic and Correa. So he's my preferred name from this list when you think about position of need, cost, oak tree, and all the available factors. Miko, what do you think of Jonathan David?
Yeah, I was about to mention that with David, we need to be like more cynical in our thought process. That with Oak Tree, there comes this age factor and the resale factor always in play. And in that sense, I want to comment quickly on Ta that he's going to be 29 next summer. So I wouldn't be surprised if we are like absolutely not going to sign him and not going to even offer him anything because the owners say that no, we don't do that here. But with David, that's totally all the parameters are right with him, that he's young enough so that we can sell him in few years if we want to make a big plus Valenza if he plays well enough so that we can sell him for a decent money. So yeah, I would see that maybe David might be the most likeliest to get signed. Part of the reason is that Ausilio has been after him for a few years now, and that was the same case with Thuram. So that might play something in this one, that there's this history and with the maybe with the agent and there's been the connection already. At least that worked with Thuram, I believe. So might be the same thing here. But yeah, as you Andrew said, the competition with Thuram, the competition seems to be a bit with the bigger clubs, and maybe with David not so much. So then it comes down to the salary request, how much he like demands and what kind of offers he's getting and which clubs. But I would say that Inter have a fairly good chance here. But I think we will know this already in January, maybe. I don't know. I would guess that's like a common knowledge by then where he's gonna go.
Yeah, and watching some Canadian television over the summer, they've been talking about David leaving Lille for 2 years now. And this past summer, they were talking really, does he want to? There are options they floated on screen. I remember seeing this graphic where Inter, Roma, and then a bunch of mid-table Premier League clubs. I can't tell you exactly who they were. Maybe like West Ham or something. But they were basically posing the question of, does Jonathan David want to go and be quote unquote the guy at an Italian club, or does he want to go and try to earn his keep at like a mid-table Premier League club? So if those Canadian reports I watched were right, that's the level of competition you're facing. You figure we can win out. It feels comparable to Thuram. I don't know what kind of wages this guy wants, though. If he's talking, 5 million net, the way Thuram was asking for, I'd have a hard time swallowing that pill, just given his lack of great track record. I mean, he's only been at Lille his entire career.
Yeah, I think Thuram actually got 6 million, but anyway, he has the growth degree, so that helps the cost for the club a lot there. So something like 5 million, that's, I don't know, that sounds a lot. And regarding the player himself, I would say that if we don't sell anyone and he's gonna join like as a fourth striker or like a replacement to Arnautovic, then I don't know. I guess I don't mind, but if it ends up being like we sell Thuram for big plus Valencia and then we replace him with Jonathan David, then that sounds a bit bad at that moment. But yeah, everything comes down to the like what kind of role he's gonna get. How excited I would be if we get him. If he's the fourth guy, I don't mind that at all, since he at that point he would be more like a trade bait in a few years anyway.
Yeah, no, Jonathan David as a second striker is an unmitigated disaster. Jonathan David as a third striker, somewhat acceptable. So when you look at the needs going into, I'm going to get into the January transfer window during a game of buy or sell. So let's just think about next summer for now. The most obvious one, Miko, you already touched on. It's the fact that Cherby and DeVry both have contracts expiring. You're going to need a center back. And you've got Arnautovic and Correa, both on expiring deals. You're going to need a striker. Jay, is there any other area of the squad you want to see a player signed?
It's hard to say, man. We've already touched on the centre back position and obviously the striker situation, and those are the two key areas, in my opinion. What I like about the Bijol rumours is that he plays central centre back, so he'd be a natural fit to replace Acerbi and De Vrij. But as you guys mentioned, the downside is the cost, and he's only been at Udinese for like 2 years, so this is more of I guess kind of like a Skriniar situation where the guy has come in and had a little bit of time developing a reputation for himself at a smaller club, albeit Bijol is more proven than Skriniar was at the time we signed him. Shout out my boy Skriniar. Hashtag Skriniar is innocent. Hashtag Inter did Skriniar dirty. Hashtag Team Skriniar. But what can I say? The lack of options is a big concern, and the forward line is one where we need some variety. You know, there was a small, I dare say tiny percentage of me naively hoping that we might see Carboni at some stage, but that guy's career ended last week. So what can we do? Yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about the strikers and centre backs, but it's hard to really say much, just given the financial uncertainty and the relative lack of options. We really are kind of in a position where we need to kind of pull another Bisek out the hat, just find some younger, unknown player and hope that they come good.
Yeah, I was thinking this thing that Oak Tree doesn't allow signing older players, but then we signed our second keeper for 30 million or 30.5 million, 13.5 million, and he's the second keeper, so that's like a investment for the future. So I was thinking, what if Bijol costs like 15 million, 18 million? Would they allow us to sign him anyway? Because he's kind of a for the future, but also for the present. So I don't know. There was some money anyway to be used this summer, and all the signings we made, which cost us some money, they aren't like playing at all at the moment. So they are like future investments. So I'm thinking maybe there's some money to be spent next summer, but maybe the age is the factor how much we can spend on players. But so that would speak in favor of Bijol, that we would be able to sign him since the salary requests would be a lot lower than Ta anyway. So let's see.
Irfan, what about you? Is there anywhere else in the squad besides striker and center back that you're focusing on for next summer?
I do think we need a serviceable replacement for Hakan. Backup. Oof. Just kidding. Just kidding. No, I do think that we could probably use some help on. I don't know, actually. Maybe the wingbacks. I'm still not convinced.
Just say what you're really thinking. Say you want that Mkhitaryan replacement.
I know. We do need that, but I'm still not convinced yet on what our midfield looks like, because I think we do have talent with Frattesi and Zielinski. I just don't know if we've seen the right kind of mix of players outside of our front, basically two. Outside of Hakan and Barella, the midfield's kind of a mystery to me as to like what the best position is for the remaining players and how they play together. So I know there's enough like people there. There's like enough talent there. I think the question is just, how do the pieces kind of fit? So I don't know if we necessarily need another body in the midfield. I do think we need to figure out what we're doing with the right wingback situation because, um, along with playing Mkhitaryan, my biggest pet peeve of Inzaghi is his insistence to play Darmian, and especially playing Darmian over Dumfries. And so, and Dumfries, I guess I heard a rumor that he actually hadn't signed an extension. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think we got to figure out what we're doing with that because Darmian and Dumfries um, are kind of an odd couple over there. And Inzaghi seems to love using Darmian, who's becoming increasingly less effective, in my opinion. And then if Dumfries hasn't signed an extension, then we have to deal with another person over there too. So I'm curious what they're going to do about right wing back. That's another position where I feel like we might not need another person, but we definitely need to kind of sort out what the future plans are.
As far as I'm concerned, our Canadian quota is already more than filled by what's that guy's name?
Buchanan.
That's the guy. Another dismal oak tree signing. Another 7.5 million wasted on a nobody.
Wait, was that Oak Tree though? Wasn't that the previous regime?
I can't remember, to be honest. But
Yes, that was a Suning signing.
There you go.
all right, whatever. That doesn't go with the agenda I was trying to promote. So I'll just stop.
No, but I do think we need a Mkhitaryan replacement. I would love like a creative kind of midfielder that can advance the ball forward the way Mkhitaryan does, because I still think Zelensky can probably do that, but we haven't seen enough yet. And all these players are going to be a year older. And my biggest concern, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but my biggest concern with Oak Tree is I do think they'll spend money. I don't think the problem is that they're not going to spend money. I think they're probably not fans of the overpaying older free agents, and I think that's okay. What I'm worried about though is will they spend significant money? And I mean by significant, I mean like 50 to 70 million in a transfer window. Will they do that without selling? Because there's not a lot of marketable assets that we have for selling that I would like to get rid of. So that's more what concerns me is, are they going to look to sell somebody some valuable piece to kind of fund the market? And I don't want them to do that because obviously I would love to get rid of some of the excess fat that we have, but those players are not valuable. They're not going to bring in any money. So I can't think of a player that would get us more than like 25, 30 mil that I would actually want to get rid of.
Did you say 50 to 70 million?
Yeah. Yeah.
No way they are gonna spend that kind of money. Like not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But regarding the midfield, I think we need to be honest here. And if Aslani is not going to develop this season, I think he's gonna be out. He needs to be loaned or sold. I don't think it's not gonna be enough what he has shown so far. That's how it is.
Yeah, and that's okay if you're getting someone like Ricci or someone, but don't bring in some like no-name scrub that everyone's gonna think is good when he's not. Bring somebody in established then, someone who can, be an actual viable replacement for Hakan as Hakan starts to age out in a couple of years.
Well,
The irony in Richie is that he was
he's
he
not
was
a
the one
regista.
from. Sorry.
He's not really a regista.
I
He
What
played
is
it
that?
he played it for Italy, but for Torino he doesn't really play as a regista.
I
But
think
he-
is a
but-
I think it's a viable reducer, but like the irony with him was that he was also an Empoli, and he was the one we should have got instead of Aslani, and ironically he ended up costing Torino less than what we paid for Aslani, so it seems like a bit of a kick in the nuts. But I agree fully with the aforementioned. I don't think Oak Tree are going to spend 50 to 70 million in a window, and I agree that on one hand it'd be great to trim the fat, but if you look through the squad, there really isn't much fat to trim. Like we have a really small squad, all things considered, and like in terms of actual legitimate kind of rotation players included, we have 22 players. I'm not counting Palacios, and I'm not counting Di Gennaro, and I'm not counting Correa because these guys are like non-factors. But otherwise, we have 25 players. Most other teams, 22 players. Most other teams kind of have serviceable youth that they can call on from here and there, and in a spot of in like a bit of an injury crisis or in the midst of some heavy heavy game scheduling, they can kind of call upon their Primavera players to just like chip in a few minutes here and there, or just things like this. But we don't have that at all, which is, in my opinion, a massive concern. So we have quite a lean squad, and yeah, the parts that we can get rid of are not valuable, as Irfan said. So and I agree with Aslani as well. There are increasingly common whispers here and there that this is kind of like last chance saloon for him, and that the club is not impressed or is disappointed with what he's shown in his time so far and the lack of progress he's made. Again, there's a whole discussion about whether that's his fault or not, or whether he's been misused and all that kind of thing. And that's a fair argument. But at the end of the day, I think the club is correct in saying that this is an investment that we paid X amount of money for. It has not given us any returns on that investment, so we need to move it on. Which begs the question why they bothered to renew him, because I don't think we're going to get much money for selling him anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, the good thing with Aslani's contract is that the salary is quite low, so he should be sellable even inside Serie A. Unlike usually with Inter, when we have a player who is signed, we give him a decent contract, and then he fails at Inter, or like doesn't live up to the expectations, and
Like
then
Correa.
we try to get rid of him, and there's no chance to get rid of him because the salary is way too high. But with Aslani, I think it's like $1.5 million now, the salary, so that's doable for maybe top 10 teams in the league. So I think we can get rid of him if that's the case. But
He should be
Irfan
loaned
made
out.
the
He should be loaned out. Like if he doesn't,
yeah,
if he doesn't
maybe loaned
perform,
out. Yeah,
if there's even a chance we
but
can do anything in January, we should loan him out. To be honest, there's a need for an impact sub, and again, we've spoken about this numerous times. But for me, when Aslani comes on, there's just no impact. It's just a kind of diminishing. It's just a player who kind of, for his own, I guess, insecurity in the role, kind of diminishes the midfield and the team as a wider unit. And so there's a need for someone who can hold up those, who can hold up the weight of the midfield and the defensive function of the midfield, as well as the playmaking distribution kind of component of his role, without causing a bit of a collapse in that area. So if there's a chance that we can bring in anyone, even on a short-term contract, even on a loan themselves, then I absolutely think we should take it, and I'm willing to take risks even if they don't pay off. I mean, other clubs are, going out there and signing random big name players on short-term contracts, on loans and things like this. There's always players of some repute, of some quality, who make the move to a big club. It's not working out, and so teams take advantage of that by loaning them. I'm thinking of people like João Felix, who wanted away from Atletico, and then Chelsea offered a short-term paid loan and things like this. And I totally get that the cost to length of service ratio is a little bit overblown, but I think in this case it's worth it. I think we need the midfield reinforcements, and as mentioned, Aslani needs a place where he can play continually to see whether to actually give him a fair chance at development as well. For all that I've said about him, he hasn't been helped by a lack of playing time either. So I think it's in the best interest of all parties for him to get a loan, and for us to find someone, even if it is someone in that kind of, dare I say, uninspiring kind of category of player. And by that, I mean like the older, just steady, kind of Serie A proven type of profile, be it like a Mkhitaryan or a Nacherbi or Damian. None of these guys were met with any level of enthusiasm, but they at least have the kind of wherewithal to do a job. So even if it's someone like that to come in and back up Hakan at this stage, that's a risk I'm willing to take. And like I said, give Aslani the chance to grow elsewhere.
yeah, that's maybe the scenario we're gonna look next summer, since as Irfan said, it's not like there's a lot of funds available for all kind of needs we have. The center back being the most crucial one next summer, I believe. And if we can do something, maybe we sign David, so that leaves maybe something something for other positions or then not. But I think that Aslani is kind of a serviceable. He's not that kind of an impact player, of course not from the bench, but he's kind of player who can play there. But he, he's not Çalhanoğlu, so the level of how our game will go down when he replaces Çalhanoğlu on the pitch. That's how it is, and it's a bit of a like a balancing. What do you want to do in the market? Do you want to still keep going with Aslani? I would try to do what Jay suggested, that we just loan him out if we can't sell him straight away with a good money, and then we just find someone who can play that position better, so that someone who can provide some kind of a security, because we probably cannot sign a player like Ricci. I would be up for signing Ricci for that position, even if he doesn't play it in Torino. He plays
Richie will
very well.
cost upwards
Yeah.
of 30 million, as far as
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
concerned. Richie
he's
is
30,
very
40 million easily.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Richie is unfortunately the opportunity to sign Richie has long passed. We could have maybe got him even like this past Mercato or the one before, but now that he's kind of starting regularly for Italy and playing well for Torino, yeah, I think he's out of our reach.
So yeah, I don't disagree on any of this stuff about Asllani. I think, even as a big fan of his, all of what you're saying makes a lot of sense. It's like a reasonable, nuanced take. My issue with all of the discussion on Asllani is that it's like, to me, it's like the fifth or sixth most important, priority for us. It's like a move that's, it's a nice to have, but it's not a must have. And it's also not the reason at all we've been struggling. Like, I love how people love to make this about Asllani, but he's not the reason we're like leaking goals every game. He's not the reason we're leaking late goals every game either. Like, it's just the defense is not playing well because systemically we're not defending well. And yes, in some cases, it's individual mistakes, but in other cases, the team's just not as focused and as organized in the back and in the midfield as we were last year and even the year before, to be honest. So, I think replacing Asllani is like, a nice to have. But figuring out what we're doing with the center back position, figuring out, in my opinion, what we're doing with the right wing back position, figuring out something with Mkhitaryan, is a lot more important than talking about Asllani, which, wouldn't make any marginal difference in the first place because Hakan's going to play all the time. And, in most of those cases where you're looking for an impact sub, you're not looking for an impact sub from the Regista role. It's usually not Hakan that's struggling, or it's usually not that part of our team that needs to make the difference on the pitch. Like, it's usually somebody, honestly, who can like run up and score, or it's somebody who can completely shut everything down. But, and in that case, maybe you can talk about Asllani not doing enough there. But most of the criticism that I've heard of his role when he plays is not that he's not defensively sound. It's usually that, honestly, I don't even know. It's just he's not, spraying the ball around enough, quickly enough, and getting into positions to create enough. Well, okay, that's usually not why you're subbing in a Regista in like, the 75th or 80th minute. So again, I have no issue with getting an upgrade in that spot. I just think it's a very low priority item and a very odd item for people to just completely be obsessing over all the time. It just makes no sense to me.
I want to make a note that Aslan is like further up in my ranking in terms of players need to be changed in the roster than Mkhitaryan. I see no issue having Mkhitaryan even next season in the squad as a rotation player.
Come on, Miko. That's the problem. He'll never be a rotation player. He's like the Dzeko. It's like if he's there, Inzaghi can't help. It's like a fat kid with cake. Inzaghi can't help himself. He's gonna have to play him.
Imagine having Dzeko in this team. How great would it be?
Okay, I'm cutting Miko off.
Censure him. Silence him.
Exactly. I'm using my mute button. No, there are two reasons. Okay, two things about Asllani. One is, yes, the defense has struggled this year, but realistically, what are you going to do about the actual defenders we have? Pavar not going anywhere, Bastoni not going anywhere. We've talked about how finding a new starting central back is the replacements. So if you look at the players whose role it is to be strong defensive contributors, it is really the center backs, the wing backs, and that central midfielder regista. Like we've been spoiled a bit with Brozovic and Çalhanoğlu in terms of defensive responsibilities. They've done better than we thought they would. But there was no doubt in my mind this team could use someone who comes off the bench whose primary job is to muck things up as a defender. And if you're up a goal with 10 minutes left in the match, take off Hakan's ball playing ability and put on, for lack of a better term, a destroyer who's just going to go in, break up play, let us sit a little deeper. Like we could use that player in our squad. It's just about, do you want to make that stylistic change? I haven't seen it under Inzaghi where he's expressed a willingness to, but I also know that Asllani wasn't Inzaghi's first choice as a regista. So I'd be open to that avenue, and I think that's a good way to improve the team if we have the money to do so. All right, so let's move on to our game of buy or sell. We do this from time to time on the podcast. I pose questions. We have to go around the room and see if everyone buys, aka agrees with the statement, or sells, meaning they disagree with the statement. So I've got 5 items, all Inter or Serie A based. We're going to go around the room, and we'll see who agrees with these. So the first one should be a pretty easy one. It is buy or sell. Thuram finishes the season as Inter's leading goal scorer. I'll let you go first, Miko.
All right. Will it be total goals, not just league goals?
Total goals, all competitions.
Okay. He's how much? Lautaro has 3 goals now. Thuram has 7. Okay, I think I talked something differently last episode or 2 episodes ago, but I'm gonna go with Thuram now. So I'm gonna buy. I think he keeps scoring enough so that Lautaro won't end up catching him. And yeah, I'm gonna go with Thuram.
All right, so Miko's buying. Jay,
Yeah.
buy or sell?
Buy. Lautaro is finished.
Perfect. Irfan?
I'm going to be the voice of dissent here, and I'm going to sell. Thuram's off to a great start, and thank God he is, because he's kind of keeping us around. With Lautaro not in great form, but I still think a lot of the issues with Lautaro are more to do with just a crazy and busy summer. I expect him to level out and become a lot more, like his usual self. And Thuram has done a really good job, but he's still not a super efficient scorer, in my opinion. He's definitely improved, but the difference is just not that much right now. 7-3 is not crazy to me as a difference. So I think Lautaro will find some form and, overtake him eventually, just also because of the way we play, the style that we play. I think it's more suited towards Lautaro eventually knocking some of his chances in. So I'm going to sell. I think Lautaro's going to finish as our lead scorer. What about you, Andrew?
I am also team sell on this. The 4-goal lead is not insurmountable, and I just think water will find its level. Lautaro will start scoring goals. Thuram is eventually going to cool down and go into a goal-scoring drought, and we've all seen it just takes one game. Lautaro can put 4 past someone in a game, and then suddenly we're looking at a tied race. So give me Lautaro, give me a sell.
Salernitana is no longer in Serie A.
As I was preparing to speak, I was just checking the Serie A table. I'm like, was Salernitana relegated or not? Because this is a relevant factor. All right, next one. The top, not in order, but just in totality, the top 4 teams in Serie A will be Inter, Napoli, Juve, and Milan. Jay, buy or sell?
Buy. I think we scrape in.
Oh my
Irfan, go ahead.
I have to buy as well. I don't know who you replace out of those. I think we'll definitely be there, despite Jay's last comment. I think Napoli are definitely going to be there. Juve, unfortunately, will definitely be there as well. Milan's a bit of a wild card for me just because they always are. But I can't think of another team outside of these four that can break in. That's my main concern. I feel like Atalanta is kind of a mess. I feel like Roma's kind of a mess. I don't even know. I mean, what like some of the really well performing clubs so far are bound to find their level back in the mid tier, like a Torino. So I don't know. I don't think anyone else kind of has the stamina to break into the top four. So I'm going to buy.
Miko.
Yeah, I have to buy as well. I would have wanted to say something against Milan maybe, but Atalanta is way too inconsistent, and they have the Euro games as well, so they won't get any advantage there. I gotta say buy as well.
I'm a sell on this one. Milan's going to finish outside the top four. Atalanta's going to finish in the top four. You know, when Milan goes to the Champions League semifinals, Jay, that's going to be a lot of fixture compression for them. They're going to struggle to handle those matches. But no, I just haven't seen enough from Milan for me to be convinced they're going to end up in the top four. Atalanta is only a few points behind them, and I expect them to get knocked out of Europe in short order, so that should help with their fixture congestion. I do also want to berate you all because it did not go unnoticed as I was listening back to last week's episode. The unwarranted, unnecessary praising of the talentless hack that is Retegui, this awful footballer you guys gave credit to last week. I will not let it pass. He is awful. He will stop scoring goals, I assure you. Skamaka will be back soon.
It's a lot of words coming from a fan of a guy who can't even walk right now. Has Skamaka moved to crutches yet?
Whatever leg does not have a torn ACL on it, on Skamaka's body, has more talents than Retegui's entire being.
Fair enough. I don't disagree in terms of talent, but like we said last week, Retegui's just he's doing the fundamentals right, which is why he's getting the goals. So
Retegui is gonna be a 20 goal scorer this season. That's for sure.
I agree. At least 20. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be like top 3, top 4 is going to be like Retegui, maybe someone from Inter, Thuram or Lautaro, not both, and then obviously top 1 will be Pulisic. So.
Okay.
I think we're sleeping a little bit on Lazio and Udinese, who are currently in the top 6. But
every time I write off Lazio as finally being done, they just patch together a bunch of scrubs I've never heard of before and compete for European places.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me nervous about those two, I would love for one of those two to sneak into the top 4 at the expense of Milan. That'd be awesome. But I don't think they will because they actually have a defense that's worse than Inter's. So I don't see that happening.
Why is everyone brushing off Milan? Out of genuine curiosity, did you guys not see them literally dismantle us like a few weeks ago? Is it because that was just a fluke or something, or like all jokes aside, like all of my pro Milan trolling aside for a second, I'm genuinely surprised that no one takes them seriously. Like, I get that Fonseca's had a bit of a rocky start, but like literally they fucking destroyed us like a few weeks ago. That was not a 2-1 game. We were lucky not to lose that 4-1.
I think destroy is a bit of an exaggeration.
Yes,
exaggeration.
Look at the chances they squandered at the end at the game.
But we wanted to win the match, so we played our hand and they got the counters.
What does that have to do with anything? Like it's all part and parcel of a game. The end of the fact is they had like
Inzaghi overplayed his hand. He overplayed his hand, and then in Milan they were able to absorb our attacking and then counter that. So
Inzaghi overplayed his hand because we were getting beat the whole game. There was like maybe like the last 20 minutes of the first half was the only portion of the game where we looked any half decent. The rest of that, I thought Milan were far superior than us. I thought they were just hungrier. They wanted it more, set up better tactically. And like I said, they probably had 5 or 6 like really high XG chances, which they should have or could have scored from.
These things happen though in a derby. These things happen. They're not a good team. Like they just lost to Fiorentina, and Fonseca's not. He's just there's nothing about Fonseca that gives me any confidence that he's going to be able to guide this team into the top four. I mean, look, I would take our match, the match they played against us, and put that to the side, right? Other than that, where have they looked impressive and good? You know, they beat up on small teams, and that's something you need to do to be in the top four. So I get that. But they also drop points. They don't look good. They're sloppy. And they're like not a consistent team at all. So I don't know, man. I don't see why we should have any faith in them, to be honest.
Yeah, let's talk about Milan a bit. Did you guys see the Fiorentina match? Did you guys see what happened in those penalties?
The 3 missed
What
penalties.
happened there? Yeah, there were two missed penalties, but who took them? First, it was Theo. Okay, Theo is maybe usually taking their penalties, but what Fonseca said after the match, he said that Pulisic is their penalty taker, but somehow Theo took the first penalty. Okay, he's the captain. Maybe that was something they decided on the pitch, but he missed the penalty. And what happened then? Then the next penalty, Tammy takes the ball and he goes and shoots it and misses it, and it looked like Pulisic was like going to take it, but then Tammy just decided, okay, I'm gonna take it, and that's just incredible.
That's
I
not
think
going to happen
it's
again.
yeah,
Penalty
it's not gonna
hierarchy is
happen.
set. The hierarchy is set, or they got to a point where there was this big public embarrassment about it, and now everyone is going to follow the coach's instructions, which is that Pulisic is going to take the penalty. It was an issue that caused them to drop points in this match, but as far as I'm concerned, it's an issue that's been resolved, I guess, is the way I look.
It's not an. I think
You know,
it's
think
a
about it, if
much
Lautaro
deeper.
or someone,
It's a much deeper issue there. There's the if coach says what's the priority and how it should go, and then the players decide something else. That's like a total lack of leadership, and it's a disrespect to the coach. And I think Fonseca doesn't have the locker room in his hands at all anymore. I think there's a leadership issue there in the squad. We remember the Theo Leao debacle a few weeks ago. Maybe that was nothing, but there's all kinds of things like popping up from the Milan squad. So I'm not seeing them being any kind of challenger in this title race. Like there's too many issues there that they haven't been able to solve, and I think the Fonseca won't see the rest of the season at Milan. I think there's going to happen something, and maybe the results won't go as planned, and he will be out at some point. I don't believe in Milan this
I
season.
don't disagree with what some of you guys are saying. I just think, or to best encapsulate my point, is that what Irfan said was, if you put the Inter result aside, I just think you can't put that result aside, because I think that result goes to speak on the potential they have in their squad. And this is a team that has finished top four a number of years in a row. So I get that Fonseca has been a bit of a meme coach, considering his tenure at Roma and stuff like that. But like I said, they've got some good players. And I think ultimately the players are arguably more important than the coach. And so, yeah, I just think it's strange to write them off as like a, sixth place team at best or whatever.
Yeah. I didn't drop them out of top four, but I don't see the possibilities to truly rival for the title.
I think I'm the only one who dropped them out of the top four, and I'll just say part of it's a numbers crunch where you have, if you look at the team, Inter has been a lock for the top four the past few years. I'm not saying we are this year, but we have been. Then you have Juve, who minus one season has more or less been a lock for the top four recent years. Atalanta, they go back and forth. I mean, they're very inconsistent, but they have consistently made European competitions. And then now you have Napoli, who under Conte looks like our most serious Scudetto challenger. So I would not be shocked if any of the 5 teams I listed missed out on European football, because someone's going to have to. And by European football, I mean Champions League, not the garbage Europa League.
Is it still top 4 or top 5, or what's the deal with that?
Are we fully top 5 these days, Miko?
It's based on this UEFA country coefficient points, and Last season, Italian clubs did so well, so we got to the two best countries, so we got to the fifth team. But this season, that's not going to happen because we have the extra team. So all of the teams would have to do very well because it's the average points. So it's harder for these countries now who have the extra team to get it like 2 seasons in a row. So I don't see that happening. It's only 4 teams, most probably.
All right, let's move on to our next buy or sell topic. So, buy or sell, Inter signs a player during the January transfer window. And by this, I mean who joins the squad in January, not a free transfer for the summer. Irfan, what do you think?
Hard sell. No chance.
Miko?
Yeah, I have to say sell as well. I don't see our ownership sanctioning any kind of reinforcements, even if they were needed. Maybe if there's some serious injury, maybe then Marotta can talk them into some kind of a signing. But maybe that would be a loan or something. So, but yeah, sell at this point.
Jay?
I think they will sign someone, but just to add insult to injury, it's going to be some like indescribably useless prick or some like no-name signing who goes to the Primavera anyway. So I do think they will sign someone, but it's going to be like a Palacios level signing. It's going to be like a cheaper than Palacios kind of signing.
Does Buchanan returning to the squad count as a new signing is my question. It's like having a new signing.
He's returning already after this break.
I would be fine if he just didn't return. Like if if we quietly shipped him out in January, to be honest.
Yes.
Oh, actually, let me ask. Is this? I know maybe the question was not intended with this level of complexity, but do you think we'll see anyone leave in January? Because I think if we do move someone in January, there is a chance that we could replace them in a budget manner. But any departures that you can foresee?
I'd love to see us loan out Palacios, who's never going to play a minute here.
Yeah, me too. Palacios and Aslani, I think, would be good candidates to loan out. Even Buchanan, to be honest. But
somebody on the forum was asking the question or suggesting that Buchanan could be used as like a marketing piece to get Jonathan David to sign for Inter, which I just find funny when you think about how horrible of a time Buchanan probably hates his life right now. He is on the bench. He never plays. Then he went on international duty, broke his leg, never plays again. And when he does play, he's always played out of position. So could you imagine this guy's sales pitch to Jonathan David?
Yeah, not a good endorsement for his fellow Canadians. But that's okay. We don't want Canadians anyway. Isn't that right, Andrew?
Build the wall.
but not the southern wall, the northern wall.
Yeah, build the northern wall. I am also a sell on Inter signing a player in January, for the record. Okay,
I think we all agree Oaktree are being too stingy for us to imagine a signing.
This is a bit of an oddball one, but I want to maybe speak to our club's ineptitude with this one. So, buy or sell, Nesta and Monza get relegated. There are some reports in the news that Monza might be sold soon. I think I saw a 60 million valuation to some American owners. They're currently sitting, I believe, dead last in the table. Cannot score a goal to save their lives unless they're playing Inter. So, Jay, what do you think? Does Monza get relegated this year?
Oof, I think there's a really good chance of it. And thank you for mentioning the fact that they're dead last in the table. I just want to remind everyone that we drop points against the teams who are literally 19th and 20th in the table. So if anyone, no excuses should be made for how poor we've been this season. You can't fucking, like, losing to Milan is one thing. Dropping points at Genoa, who are, like I said, 18th or 19th, and then Monza, who are 20th, is completely inexcusable. But anyway, I'm going to buy. I'm just, like I said, it's pretty much a coin flip, but I'll take heads and say yes, they do get relegated.
Irfan, what do you think? Do we see Roberto Gagliardini in Serie B next year?
We'll see him as our Aslani replacement, so no. But I do think that they're going to get relegated. I don't see how they can survive. They look so... I don't know, man. They're so all over the place. I don't know what they can do to steady that ship. So if I had to pick, I think they're going to get relegated as of now, but it's still so early. Uh, but if you're going to twist my hand for buy or sell, I'm going to buy it. They're going to get relegated.
Miko?
I'm gonna sell. It like Irfan said, it's too early, and well, okay, maybe if they are sold middle of the season and Gallian is out, maybe then. But yeah, I'm gonna say that Gallian will stay there, and Nesta is his guy, his buddy. So he's not gonna kick Nesta out yet. I'm gonna sell this one. They're gonna stay. There's gonna be maybe Cagliari there. Who else? Lecce. Como looks good. But yeah, maybe Cagliari and Lecce will replace Monza there. Maybe Hellas Verona.
Yeah,
I'm gonna sell.
I think Venezia and Genoa are the two teams who, if you watch play this year, you're like, yeah, these are relegation sides. So I think those are two of my three. And then as I was trying to pick the last one, it really came down to Monza and then like some of those clubs you listed, Miko. And I just couldn't. Monza hasn't even won a match yet this season. I just couldn't bring myself to pick them to survive. So I'm a buy that they're going to get relegated. And then last one, we've talked about this a lot in previous episodes, but there were more reports on it I saw over the past couple weeks. So let's get something on the record. Miko, buy or sell that Inter will sell Frattesi in summer 2025?
Ooh, that would be interesting. So we would sell Frattesi and then we would buy Fabian from Bologna to get the boy back home. That would kind of finance our transfer market, but I'm going to sell. I don't believe Frattesi wants to leave yet. Well, maybe if we win the Scudetto again, I don't know. I'm gonna sell. I don't believe Frattesi wants to leave yet. What about you guys, Jay?
Yeah, I think financially it doesn't work. I don't think there's any club. I mean, obviously it depends on how he finishes the rest of the season. Maybe he plays, maybe there's an unlikely scenario where he becomes a starter and starts every remaining match of the season and scores 10 goals. In that case, sure, why not? But starting with that itself is unlikely. So realistically, I think Frattesi will probably play more minutes than he did last season, but I think his role will still be more or less the same. A late impact sub, a rotation player, etc. And to that effect, I don't think he'll be in a position where he will be able to really impress beyond the level he's already playing at, which is impressive. Got to give him his dues, at least in the goal scoring side of things. And therefore, the flow-on effect is his market value is not going to market value, or his notoriety is not going to increase to a degree where we will accept a sale for him. Like, how much did we spend on him? 35 million. So we need to get at least 35 million, even if, even taking into account the amortization. But I mean, look around. What club out there has the financial means and the need, tactically speaking, for a player of Frattesi's style and quality for 35 to 40 million? There is zero clubs in the world out there right now that fit that category. So sell. We will not sell him.
Irfan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a sell as well. A lot of for the reasons that Jay mentioned. I just don't see us being able to get that much money out of him and finding a viable buyer who will pay that much. And it's not because he's not a good player. He doesn't have good qualities. It's one of those entrenched Serie A things where there's just not a lot of teams that can afford to pay that kind of money in Serie A. And so an Inter Italy transfer seems unlikely. And of course, you can find a team maybe in the EPL or somewhere else that might be willing to give up that much money. But honestly, like even that track record's been kind of poor, at least for us. So I don't know. I don't see a viable buyer coming to make us an offer that we can't refuse, and therefore I feel like he's probably going to stick around. And this is one of those things we talked about earlier in the episode, but like one of the things Inzaghi needs to kind of figure out is the right way to tinker with the midfield to get the best out of the players that he has. And I still think that has not necessarily been sorted yet with Zielinski, Frattesi, Aslani. And so he needs to kind of figure that out. I expect to see big things from Frattesi. I think he'll score some big goals for us again down the stretch this
I
year.
heard
The
that.
Freudian slip.
I fucking
Yep.
heard that.
We all did.
I fucking heard that.
So I still expect big things from Frattesi, and I don't think we're going to sell him. I think he'll be part of the plans for the future because, honestly, there's not a lot of midfielders that you can put on that pretty much either guarantee you a goal or guarantee you some sort of influence in attacking the way Frattesi does. It's just that he doesn't seem to be doing much else on the pitch. But again, I think that Inzaghi can tinker with the midfield to get a little bit more out of him. I think he'll stick around just because of how much we paid and not being able to find a buyer. So a long way of saying I'm selling. I don't think that we're going to sell him.
I reckon if we do sell him, it'll have to be to one of these like dipshit, overfed English teams with too much money, and more money than sense. I know that whole kind of wave of English teams spending crazy money has ended a little bit, but I mean, who else would even consider it? I can just imagine like a Aston Villa type side, just being like, oh, this guy's killing it in Serie A with 8 goals in only 1,500 minutes, blah blah blah. Let's splash 40 million on him, and like in the same way they picked up like a Paqueta or someone like that. So that's the only viable track, and even that track is not that viable. Go on, Andrew.
I'm going to propose a bit of an alternative scenario here. I could see us pulling a Gosens with Frattesi, and that is you just cash him out at his book value to move on and have money to go a different direction. If he really continues to not be involved in any facet of the play other than goal scoring, I could see us getting fed up with him and deciding to, like with Haslani, just say, it's been 2 years, you haven't developed enough. So at the end of this season, Frattesi's book value is going to be 20 million. I don't think that's an unrealistic number to get for him. If you could get a Roma, a Lazio, someone of that tier, a Fiorentina, someone of that tier on the phone, I don't know if it's viable or not, but I don't think it's impossible. I cite Gosens as an example because there's this kind of the similar thing. We did not make any money selling Gosens. It was, we got the transfer fee in for him with 0 plus Valenza. It was just a break-even proposition, and we used it as an opportunity to go in and get a guy who we thought be a better fit for the role moving forward in Augusto. So I could see us doing something like that with Frattesi. Like I said,
That's
20 million, not super unrealistic for a player like him. I mean, there are, that Conference League, Europa League caliber Serie A club has the money to go out and make a transfer like that. It just would Frattesi accept a move to a lesser club.
Yeah, that's a good point, and you could see it that the case that okay, we have resources allocated to Frattesi quite a lot at the moment, and we would want to shift those resources or this resource allocation somewhere else maybe, and then we would just get rid of him and get someone cheaper, maybe Fabian. Maybe he's not good enough for Inter. Maybe we get someone else, but I can see that this logic what you are suggesting, and maybe what like Jay said, maybe those upper table upper table EPL clubs would be a fit for Frattesi in sense of maybe the football is more straightforward there, and Frattesi could probably fit very well that type of football more than Inzaghi's football, and there's anyway enough money so they can pay us a proper transfer fee, but I wouldn't accept like 20 million. It would have to be at least 30, 35, maybe 40, like especially if he scores a few goals in Champions League and these international games, maybe then his value keeps being high enough so we could get a decent money for his sale.
We need some like
I can see this.
Yeah. We need some like Italian coaches to move to EPL because they're the ones who love to bring these Italian players in. So if we see any of these coaches move to the EPL teams and they actually watch players outside of England, maybe we'll get a chance. But I don't know. 20 million to me, I mean, even for Roma and Lazio seem a little too steep. I don't know.
I'm picturing the scenario now. Conte wins a Scudetto at Napoli. Rage quits over the summer, goes and signs on as the manager of insert random EPL club and brings Frattesi home with him.
I think he brings Lukaku with him.
Well, that goes without saying. Well, I will end on one optimistic note for you all, which is Arnautovic and Correa. Their combined wages are about 10 million gross a season. Their combined amortization is about 12 million per season. So we should realistically have about 20 million in wiggle room coming from the forward line next summer. Hopefully Oak Tree lets us use it.
I'm disgusting.
I'm pretty sure they won't allow us to use all of that. But that's
we've even broken Miko. Even Miko is pessimistic now.
That's discussion at the episode later on, maybe.
Right. Well, let's end with a Jay's hot betting tips as per usual.
So it only just occurred to me that the first match back from the international break is Roma. And
yeah, we probably should have previewed that in some capacity.
Yeah, whatever. We forgot, guys. But my betting tip will be for that match, and I'm going to say we beat Roma 3-1, and Juric promptly gets fired.
and De Rossi back.
Yeah, De Rossi back.
How is the rumor going these days?
Man, Miko and Irfan, you might as well give some Roma predictions.
Irfan, you go first.
Okay. There's no chance in hell we're going to keep a clean sheet because our defense sucks. So I'm also going to go... you know what? I'm going to go 2-1. We'll win, but it'll be a scrappy affair with a game-winning goal from Aslani in the 89th minute.
Oh,
this guy. Okay. I'm. What did you say? 2-1. Okay, I'm gonna go with 2-1 as well. 3-1 would have been like, yeah. It's gonna be 2-1.
Aslani winner?
Be cagey.
Aslani
No,
winner? You too?
No. I'm not gonna give Aslani anything. He's not gonna play in this match. It's too important.
well, like we've radicalized Miko into a hardline anti-Aslani.
The only thing more abysmal than Roma as a football club is Inzaghi's record post-international break. So give me a 2-2 draw.
Oh. Yeah,
Chrissy Inter.
Think of it.
Chrissy Inter in full effect.
Don't worry.
If we're going to beat Roma, it's straight to fucking Retiro.
Is it Young Boys directly after Roma? Yeah. So we have an interesting week.
Yeah.
It's Roma, Young Boys, Juve coming back from international break.
That is interesting.
I should have let Jay preview Young Boys. That's his area of expertise.
That's right. Young Boys followed by the old lady. Just my favorite two things in the world.
All right, we'll wrap up there. We'll be back next week to recap the Roma match and preview that busy week ahead. Catch you all then.
See you guys.
See ya.
See you. Forza Inter.